Every passing year, the effects of climate change and what it means for people's actual lives, their homes, their ability to farm and eat, send their kids to school, to access basic healthcare, among others, increase in scope. More than the heat waves and drought, tsunamis, cyclones and floods have the most devastating impacts. Across West and Central Africa, the 2024 floods are already causing havoc. I'm Abdullahi Hassan, and welcome to Enviroscope here on West Africa Democracy Radio and broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. A warm welcome to our listeners in Gambia via Numi FM Banjul, in Nigeria on Albaraka Radio, Bauchi State Northeast, in Ghana via Radio Pad 95.1, Damango Savannah region, and Baft FM Sierra Leone. Enviroscope is WADR's environment program that brings to the fore topical issues affecting the agricultural sector, land exploration, climate change, and every other matter that concerns our planet, Mother Earth. And on today's package, we are looking at floods in countries of West Africa and measures by governments to mitigate the impact of flooding on communities. Climate and weather experts sound the alarm on the impact of flooding across West and Central Africa, which has affected more than 700,000 people this year already. Just 2 months into the 2024 rainy season, torrential rains and severe flooding have affected hundreds of thousands of people in Central African Republic, Chad, Côte d'Ivoire, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Liberia, Niger, Nigeria, Mali, and Togo. In addition, at least nearly 100 people are reported to have lost their lives due to drowning, and 699 others have been injured. Augustine Cole has more in this report.
So far, Chad is the worst hit country, with 246,883 people affected by the high waters in just a few weeks. According to Charles Benimolen, the head of the UN Humanitarian Coordination Office for West and Central Africa, meaningful and strategic investments need to be made to ensure communities are prepared and that the worst impacts are mitigated ahead of time. He stressed that every year, OCHA sounds the alarm on the effects of climate change and what it means for people's actual lives, their homes, their ability to farm and to eat, to send their kids to school, to access basic health care, among others. The floods, which in many cases affect the same communities year after year, have also severely affected livelihoods and basic social services, undermining the ability of communities to provide for themselves and forcing them into reliance on aid to survive in dignity. Access to health care and basic education is hampered, with dozens of schools and medical centers destroyed or damaged. Food production and food security are also at stake, with at least 25,726 hectares of farmland damaged and 4,205 livestock killed. Key buildings and infrastructure are also hit. OCHA says about 62,000 houses have been destroyed or damaged, leaving 54,772 women, children, and men homeless and displaced. Nigeria and Chad recorded the highest number of people displaced due to flooding, 45,797 and 5,286 respectively. The 2024 seasonal forecast predicted above average cumulative rainfall over the June to August and the July to September periods in areas already prone to flooding in the Sahel and some countries in West Africa. This will deepen the needs of a population already vulnerable due to chronic poverty, underdevelopment, conflict and political instability, and increase the resources required for the humanitarian response. Charles Benimolen argues that the solutions to manage this exist, but it requires immediate action and sufficient funding.
Augustine Cole reporting there. As stated in OCHA's update, the Sahel region is heavily impacted by the flood this year. When asked, climate experts in this region say climate change is driving unprecedented climatic conditions that play out either with extreme heat waves, drought, or floods. According to Aissata Lawan, the Nigerian Minister of Humanitarian Action and Disaster Management, her country is already counting losses, but above all, measures have been put in place to mitigate further damage.
Unfortunately, we have recorded 14.14% loss in human lives, with 44 deaths nationwide and 50 due to house collapses. Overall, we have 117,150 affected individuals, which constitutes approximately 17,632 households. Around 14,444 houses have collapsed. Additionally, 502 huts have been damaged. We have lost 15,412 tons of livestock and 2,773 hectares of flooded agricultural land. As of today, distribution actions are ongoing in the regions, and significant stocks of food and shelter supplies are on their way. In addition to the available provisions, the government is already taking the necessary steps to ensure that all individuals affected by the disasters receive assistance and the needed support.
Aissata Lawan is the Nigerian Minister of Humanitarian Action and Disaster Management. In several regions of Ghana, severe flooding has resulted in the loss of life, the devastation of homes, and the displacement of entire communities in the last 3 years. Areas affected include the Greater Accra, Western, Ashanti, and Volta regions. In 2023 alone, at least 6,632 people were affected, 7 people killed, and 3,974 others displaced. George Aisi is Director of Communications at the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO.
Oh, yeah, there's been issues of flood, but, most of our flooding is flash flooding, and so it displaces the people within a few hours. The water recedes and the people get back to their homes. But the general process of flood management is being continuous dredging and desilting of drains, and then construction of more drains. Government is in with a garage project support through the Ministry of Local Government, so that some identified assemblies have been given some funds to dredge their drains and then maintain their drains for the smooth flow of water. That's been an ongoing exercise in partnership with Ministry of Western Housing and Co. So, yes, NADMO, again, in partnership with the Assembly, has been managing the drains to ensure that water flows and then minimize flooding, displacing a lot of people in the affected area, especially those living in flood-prone areas.
There are also the concerns about the kinds of early warnings that are given to especially the citizens. Have there been any such early warnings that NADMO in particular has been sharing with citizens ahead of such seasons where especially floodings happen?
Oh, yes, we do that. We do community engagement. We've identified places that are flood-prone, and so in partnership with the Ghana Meteo, we foretell people about the weather situation so that people will get readiness for the rains so that it's part of the early warning measures. And then because we've identified places we call safe havens, it also conscientizes the people to know that this is the place we need to access in case of the heavy rains and the flood rising. It's part of the early warning issues, and then the community engagement by NADMO officials in flood-prone areas. So these are part of the early warning measures that we put in place. And of course, the silting and dredging of drains are part of early warning measures.
Now, in comparison between last year's situation and this year, which has been better? Have there been more floods this year in terms of assessing the situation last year and this year? What have worked for NADMO?
This year we are now getting back into the heavy rains again. Between March to May, June, there were some rains. Now, up to October, definitely we're looking at some rains again. And so, yes, because we are doing the dredging and because we are getting more drains repaired, maintained, and then constructed, I would say the effect is not as high as it was last year. There's marked improvement, and we are hoping that we'll continue to be doing what we are doing right to ensure not only NADMO, but Western Housing and the assemblies to ensure that we minimize the effects of flooding on our people, especially those in flood-prone areas.
This year is an election year, and we know the typical arrangements with election years and how sometimes things that have to do with budgets are affected. Is that in any way affecting your ability to be able to do all the things that you've lined up, also to be able to avert floods?
I can tell about that. Well, the government does the budgets and disburses money. And so we have submitted our budgets. The ones that have been approved have been approved. And definitely the releases will be done. And so I can only tell when time comes and we are not getting the releases to be able to respond adequately and effectively to the needs of the people. Then we can say maybe it's been affected. But so far, I think I cannot emphatically say because it's an election year, it's going to be affected. I have no evidence to that effect.
That was George Ayisi, Director of Communications at the National Disaster Management Organization of Ghana, NADMO. The constant flooding of the Liberian capital, Monrovia, has been brought to the spotlight as many Liberians are calling on the government to take appropriate actions to open the drainage and alleyways. Many giant-sized structures were erected in the alleyways and drainage lines during the country's decade-long civil war, something that has significantly contributed to the flooding of Monrovia over the years. These Liberians are making suggestions to their government.
Actually, it's always alarming, more especially when we engage into our rainy season. It's very alarming. Every time it rains for like 2-3 days, there will be heavy pool of rain down, and our street, our houses will be flooded. So I'm asking and I'm calling on the national government at least to be able to help the people in the slum community like Lokin Town, Clara Town, Togo community, at least to open the drainage line, because we can do all drainage. Even when you are building a road, you have to get a drainage system. But we are asking the national government to open. Those people, they are like a nice privilege to us. So let the national government help to be able to open the drainage system, more especially for that people down. Yes. That people down, more especially, yes.
Do you think that will address the situation?
It's the best for the government to open the drainage. Secondly, I will recommend the government to regulate a law that no one should be able to build on the main alley. Because if you build on the alley now, it's alarming future to come.
Yeah, for me, it's very bad to have a place called city. Then when it rains, you see water pooling all over, just like opening reservoir. And then we look at the layout of the city. Yeah, not of the standard. So I think the only thing government can do here now is to relocate the city, because any other thing they do, they probably still be occurring. So just need to relocate the city.
For him, he recommending to the government to be able to forcefully open the alleyways. Don't you think this will make some impact, positive impacts?
But the time government will take to destroy the buildings to instead of opening an alley, let it relocate the city. Because almost every big building in the city is sitting on the alley. And now you want to break down the building, it will take time and money. So why can't you use that time?
Relocate them.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be the best way?
That would be the best way we see it. Because tomorrow, from Central Monrovia down to Town, Freepool, all over the city, the same old situation.
So the best thing, you pause the area, let the water flow, let it open the waterway, like the only way.
So you think the waterways or the drainage line should be open?
Yes. That one, when government do it, now we don't feel bad. We can't say that bad thing is the drink.
But do you sometimes feel embarrassed when the rain is falling, no free movement in the city center?
Yeah, because the water can be too much. By any street, the water. Even Gale Street, KV Street, Wolosa, some Gegele living the water, say. They can't no way for Gegele to pass, because the water, no way for the water to pass. So the only thing the government open the way up. So the only solution me see.
Voices of Liberians there. And finally, as we approach mid-rainy season, Authorities in the Gambia are taking various steps to minimize possible disasters, including floods, following the 2022 floods that caused havoc, which affected thousands of people. WADR's Sankule Janko takes a look at the flood situation in the country. His report.
As we approach the rainy season, experts are warning of potential flooding risk due to heavy rainfall. The Gambia has experienced environmental challenges that exacerbate these risks, including deforestation and inadequate drainage systems. Deforestation, driven by logging and agricultural expansion, has reduced the natural capacity of the land to absorb rainfall, increasing runoff and flood risks. Additionally, the country's drainage infrastructure is often insufficient to handle extreme weather events, leading to more frequent and severe flooding in urban and rural areas alike. In July 2022, Gambia experienced floods causing damage to houses and displacing thousands of people. North Bank region was one of the most affected regions. Musa works as a community development worker for various government agencies, and he tells me the flood situations in the area.
We have a lot of floods this year, especially around Ndungukebe, around the Lower Nyomi area. And in fact, it's just last month, one child drowned in a ditch around the village. And also, there are a lot of erosion, which has an impact in the crop production of this area. So those are major issues we have in this region so far. There is this climate change is affecting the region, and not only this region, but the entire country. So the same thing, what's happened in the other areas also happens here. So due to climate change, there is heavy rains, and it's causing floods. And also in the dry season, also have drought, and which also is affecting our production. So honestly, flood is a major problem around us, especially this year also, because we have a lot of houses that are affected. And in fact, we have to thank ECOWAS for coming up with this support.
Recent weather forecasts predict substantial rainfall over the coming weeks, raising alarms about possible flooding, especially in the capital Banjul, North Bank region, and Kanifing municipality. The potential for significant flooding could impact communities, damage property, and strain local resources. Nganjeng is the principal coordinator for the National Disaster Management Agency, NDMA, in the Kanifing municipality.
I think the situation is just horrible, and that is why it is giving a very big problem to the National Disaster Management Agency. But thank God that it is a coordinating institution, so we do work with partners in every region to make sure that we tackle some of the effects of disasters in that particular region. And I will just give you a sample, like in KM, the Municipal Disaster Coordination Office is working very closely with the Kanifing Municipal Council. Every year prior to the rains, we do involve in drainage cleaning exercise, clearing of illegal dump sites, and also creation of waterways, just to minimize the impact of flooding to the people of the municipality. And now we are not only stopping at KM, but then it's across the country. Every coordinator is working very closely with its regional area council and the governor's office as well.
Ngany further explains some of the mechanisms his disaster agency put in place in preparedness for any future disasters.
We are also presently working with the Waka project, whereby they purchase some water pumping machines and give it to the beneficiary communities. And you go to West Coast, we have a water retention pump, water retention pond that is being created at this place, Jabang. Okay. Yeah, because in 2022 there was a severe flooding that occurred in Java. Yeah. So we created a water retention pond there to at least minimize the effect of flooding. At Nyambay Jambarsane in Birkama, we also make sure that all the drains are clean and cleared to allow the free flow of water. Likewise, at Kuntawur also, we did a similar work. And even in URR, where you call Kaba Kama, that's where their hotspot is, it was also a collaboration between the governor's office, the NDMA, and the area council to make sure that the place is clean and cleared.
The Gambian government and environmental groups are calling for improved flood management practices and sustainable land use to address these issues. Measures include enhancing drainage systems and reforestation efforts to better manage rainfall and reduce flood risks.
Sankule Janko reporting there. That's how we end this week's edition of Enviroscope, WADR's environment program. Follow our discussions on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, on Facebook, now WADR English Service, and online at wadr.org. Also, kindly drop a message on our WhatsApp platform using +221 7818 45421. Again, +221 7818 45421. Many thanks to our listeners in the Gambia via Numi FM Banjul, in Nigeria on Albaraka Radio, Bauchi State Northeast, in Ghana via Radio Pad 95.1, Damango Savannah Region, and Baft FM Sierra Leone. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Until next week, it's a bye for now.